Ethan Cole lived alone on the edge of the human colony world, a dusty planet called Vera 4. His outpost sat far from the main settlement, where the air was thin, the winds sharp, and silence stretched across the barren land like a heavy blanket. He had chosen this life because he liked peace, machines and problems that could be solved with tools rather than people. But peace had its own price. The outpost needed constant upkeep, filters clogged with dust, generators needed repair, and meals were nothing more than recycled protein packs. After 3 years, Ethan had grown tired. One evening, sitting by the humming light of his console, he made a decision. He opened the trade catalog and ordered a Class 9 domestic maintenance unit, a robot Maid. Finally, he muttered to himself. A little help around here. The robot was supposed to clean, cook basic meals, and handle routine maintenance. Nothing fancy, just something to keep him from losing his mind in endless chores. Delivery was guaranteed within 3 standard days. Ethan marked the time, set the outpost for docking clearance, and waited. On the 3rd day, a blinking signal announced arrival. Ethan walked out to the landing pad, brushing dust off his jacket. A sleek cargo pod descended, its thrusters kicking up sand, and landed with a metallic thud. The side hatch hissed open with a puff of steam. Ethan crossed his arms, ready to greet his new machine. But what stepped out was not steel, not servos, not a polished humanoid robot. It was a girl. She looked about his age, perhaps younger, with pale silver skin that shimmered faintly in the dim sun. Her eyes glowed softly like twin sapphires, and her long hair, a deep violet, shifted like flowing silk. She wore a strange uniform, part cloak, part armor, with patterns etched in glowing lines that pulsed faintly. Ethan froze. The girl blinked at him, tilting her head. Then she spoke in broken galactic common. You, human? You are the one I am assigned to. Ethan's mouth opened, but no words came out. Finally, he managed, What the hell? The girl stepped down from the pod, her posture straight, proud, almost regal. She looked around the barren outpost with faint disappointment, then turned back to him. This is your dwelling? Ethan rubbed his forehead. Okay. Either I've been scammed or this is the weirdest upgrade package ever. He pulled up his wrist console, checking the delivery manifest. It clearly read 1 Class 9 domestic maintenance unit. No mention of a person, especially not an alien girl. Look, Ethan said slowly, pointing to the pod. I ordered a robot Maid. You're not a robot. The girl narrowed her eyes. I am not machine. She sounded offended. I am Lyra. You will address me properly. Lyra? Ethan repeated, still stunned. What are you doing here? Where's my robot? Lyra crossed her arms, chin high. I was sent. That is all you need know? Ethan groaned. He tried to call the supplier, but the comm signal crackled with static. The connection was blocked, as if the pod itself carried some kind of dampening field. He tried again. Nothing. Great. He was stuck with her. Lyra, meanwhile, had already walked past him, inspecting the outpost with critical eyes. She wrinkled her nose at the dust on the floor. Unclean, poorly maintained. Ethan bristled. Hey, it's clean enough. I managed just fine. She turned to him sharply. No, you do not manage. That is why you summoned me. I didn't summon you. Ethan snapped. I ordered a robot Maid, not whatever you are. Lyra tilted her head again, studying him. Her glowing eyes softened for a moment. Then she nodded slowly, as if understanding something he didn't. You expected a tool, she said quietly, but instead you received me. Ethan stared at her, utterly confused. The evening came quickly on Vera 4, the sky turning a dull red as the sun sank below the jagged horizon. Ethan, still frustrated, decided there was no point standing outside arguing. He gestured toward the door. Fine, come inside, at least until I figure this out. Lyra walked in without hesitation, as if she had every right to be there. She looked at the humming machines, the stacked crates, and the simple cot that made up Ethan's living space. Her expression shifted from disdain to mild curiosity. You live alone, she said, almost like a statement rather than a question. Yeah, Ethan muttered, typing on his console again, trying to break through the blocked comms. That's the point. Strange, she murmured. Humans always crave company. Yet you hide here, Ethan didn't answer. He was too busy cursing under his breath at the useless signal. When he looked up again, he nearly dropped his tool. Lyra had somehow dismantled one of his clogged filters and was cleaning it with swift, precise hands. Hey, what are you doing? She didn't look up. This device fails. Air quality poor. I fix, Ethan blinked. You know how to repair atmospheric filters? Lyra gave him a sharp look. Of course. Is simple, Ethan hesitated. She worked with a confidence that suggested training. Real training, not random luck. In less than 10 minutes, the filter was reassembled, running smoother than it had in months. There, she said, brushing dust off her hands. Now you breathe better. Ethan stood in silence. Maybe she wasn't a robot, but she clearly wasn't useless either. Still, this didn't explain anything. Okay, he said finally, crossing his arms. Who are you really? Why were you sent here instead of my robot? Lyra paused. For a moment, her proud expression faltered. Then she straightened again, her voice cool. You will know. When the time is right, Ethan groaned. Of course. Mysterious answers. Perfect. That night, as the outpost lights dimmed and the winds howled outside, Ethan lay awake on his cot, staring at the ceiling. In the next room, the strange alien girl sat cross-legged, her glowing eyes reflecting the dim light as she hummed a haunting melody. He had wanted a robot maid to make life easier. Instead, he had a living mystery under his roof. The next morning, Ethan woke to the sound of something clattering in the kitchen. Groaning, he rolled out of bed and rubbed his eyes. The outpost was quiet except for the soft humming and the occasional metallic clink. When he entered the kitchen, he stopped in his tracks. Lyra was preparing breakfast, not just heating protein packs or stirring nutrient gels. She was chopping alien vegetables he didn't recognize, mixing ingredients in a small pan, and flipping something that smelled sweet and slightly spicy. Smoke curled gently from the pan, filling the small room with an aroma that was strangely familiar yet completely foreign. Good morning, she said, glancing at him with a faint smile. You sleep long. Not healthy, Ethan rubbed his jaw. I usually wake up later than this. And, what is that? Lyra held up a small golden-brown pancake-like creation. Breakfast. From my home, you eat. You like? Ethan hesitated. Normally, he didn't care much about food. Meals were functional, not enjoyable. But the smell. And the effort. He found himself suddenly hungry. He took a cautious bite. His eyes widened. Okay, wow. That's really good. Lyra's expression softened slightly. I told you. I am not useless. You judge me too soon. Ethan leaned back, trying to digest both the food and the fact that he was sharing a morning with a glowing alien girl who seemed more competent than most humans he knew. Yeah, well, I wasn't sure what I ordered. Turns out I got a mystery. Lyra raised an eyebrow. You called me a mystery. You are correct. But you also called me a robot. Yeah, look, it's confusing, Ethan admitted. I order a robot maid. I get a person. A very shiny, glowing person who can cook better than me. She smiled faintly, though there was still a proud stiffness in her posture. I do not serve, I assist. There is difference. Ethan leaned against the counter. Assist, huh? That's fine. I can live with that. For the next few hours, Ethan tried to continue his normal routine, checking the outpost systems, fixing minor problems, and planning repairs for the upcoming solar storms. But Lyra followed him everywhere. She inspected the generator, poked at the solar panels, and even tried to organize his tool shelves. Ethan watched, half amused and half annoyed. Hey, that's my system layout. Don't rearrange it. Lyra stopped frowning. Why is it messy? Organization is essential for survival. Humans make unnecessary chaos. I like some chaos, Ethan admitted, raising his hands. Keeps life interesting. Lyra shook her head. Illogical. You risk failure, he laughed despite himself. You sound like a robot when you lecture me. I thought you weren't one. I am not one, she repeated firmly. I am Lyra. You will not confuse me with machine. Despite her insistence, Ethan began to notice how useful she actually was. She knew exactly how to balance energy output in the generators, how to purify the water more efficiently, and how to tweak the atmosphere filters for maximum oxygen flow. More than once he caught himself watching her work, silently impressed. At one point she noticed him staring. You observe, she said. Curious, yes. Do not forget you judge, but I am not here to entertain. I'm not judging, he said quickly. I'm impressed. And a little terrified. Lyra tilted her head. Terrified? Why? You're fast, smart, and a little scary, Ethan admitted. I asked for a robot to clean my floors, not solve problems I didn't even know I had. Her lips curved into the faintest smile. You think humans simple, but you are interesting. You survive. That is why you are suitable. Ethan frowned. Suitable for what? Lyra looked away for a moment, her glowing eyes dimming slightly. Then she shook her head. I will explain later. Not now. The day continued with minor conflicts and humor. Lyra tried to adapt to human chores, sometimes failing spectacularly. She used her alien strength to lift crates with ease, only to accidentally crush them. She tried sweeping the floor with an odd alien brush, scattering dust in every direction. Yet when it came to real work, she was flawless. By evening, Ethan had begun to respect her, though he would never admit it aloud. Lyra had an intensity he had never seen in humans, and even the robots he had worked with couldn't match her skill or precision. But as he watched her study the horizon outside the outpost's small window, he realized something else. She didn't belong here. There was a grace, a presence, a quiet authority about her that made the lonely outpost feel small. Lyra, he asked cautiously, why did you come here? I mean, really? She turned to him, eyes serious. I did not choose. I was sent. You were assigned to me. That is all. He raised an eyebrow. Assigned by who? Lyra hesitated, clearly debating how much to tell him. I cannot yet. Danger comes if others know. They would take me. You protect. That is enough. Ethan felt a chill. The casual tone of her warning didn't match the weight of her words. Protect me? Wait, you mean someone is looking for you? Her gaze didn't waver. Yes, they search. I must not be found. Ethan ran a hand through his hair. This was turning into something much bigger than a simple delivery mistake. Okay, that's great. Just great. I order a robot maid, and now I'm apparently babysitting a royal alien fugitive. Wonderful. Lyra raised an eyebrow, unamused. You underestimate humans. You will learn. Over the next few days, the two continued their strange partnership. Ethan taught her human habits, how to eat simple meals without fuss, how to manage the machinery in the outpost, even how to fold clothes properly. Lyra, in turn, taught him things he hadn't considered, ways to conserve energy, methods to purify water more efficiently, and small survival tricks she had learned in her travels. Despite frequent arguments, an unspoken trust began to grow. Ethan began to see the value of her perspective. She noticed dangers he missed, fixed problems before they grew, and even more surprisingly, sometimes offered advice that was wise. One evening, after a particularly long day of repairs, Ethan leaned against the wall exhausted. Lyra was sitting cross-legged on the floor, cleaning tools and humming a quiet tune. You adapt quickly, she said, glancing up. Most humans would not last a day in this outpost. You are persistent, Ethan chuckled. Yeah, well, I've had practice surviving boring, lonely lives. You are stronger than you think, she replied almost softly. Ethan blinked. He wasn't used to compliments, especially not from a glowing alien girl who clearly outranked him in almost everything. You know, he said after a pause, you really are weird, but in a good way, like helpful and annoying at the same time. Lyra tilted her head. I am not weird. I am correct. Perhaps you will understand. Someday, he laughed, shaking his head. Someday, huh? I hope that day comes soon. For now, you can just keep fixing my filters and cooking breakfast without lecturing me, okay? She gave him a small smile. Agreement noted. But do not forget, lessons continue. You are learning. Survival demands knowledge. As night fell, Ethan lay awake again, listening to the quiet hum of the outpost and Lyra's soft movements in the next room. He couldn't shake the feeling that her arrival was more than a simple delivery mistake. She was clever, cautious, and unlike anyone he had ever met. The following morning, the thin red sun of Vera 4 barely pierced the dusty horizon. Ethan rubbed his eyes and stumbled to the console to check the outpost systems. He expected another quiet day of mundane chores. But when he turned, he saw Lyra standing at the window, staring out at the horizon with a serious expression. Something wrong? Ethan asked, yawning. Lyra didn't turn. I detect surveillance. Ethan blinked. Surveillance here? On this empty planet? Her glowing eyes narrowed. Yes, they track me. They have found traces of my path. Danger approaches. Ethan froze. Wait, are you saying someone is looking for you? Lyra turned toward him, her face calm but determined. Yes, they will not stop until I am taken. You must help me. You are responsible now. Ethan's stomach sank. This was no longer a simple delivery mistake. The girl he had been reluctantly getting used to was in real danger, and he was caught in the middle. "Okay," he said slowly, trying to remain calm. "First, tell me who you are, and why anyone would care about you." Lyra hesitated. For a moment she looked distant, her glowing eyes reflecting something deep and painful. "I am Lyra, Princess Lyra of the Arathian people." Ethan nearly choked on his coffee. "Princess, like royalty?" "Yes," she said, her voice soft but firm. "My people, my family, are hunted. Our enemies betrayed us. I was sent away for survival. You are my refuge." Ethan leaned back against the wall. "So, I ordered a robot maid and I got a royal alien fugitive instead." He rubbed his forehead. "Great, perfect, that's exactly what I needed in my life." Lyra ignored his sarcasm. "You must understand. You are not safe either. Those who hunt me, they are skilled. They track energy signals, they monitor travel routes, and they do not hesitate to kill." Ethan's heart raced. He had faced technical problems, equipment failures, even violent storms on Vera 4. But real danger? Not something he was prepared for. "Why? Why me?" he asked quietly. "Why send me a message like this? Why make me responsible?" Lyra stepped closer, her glowing eyes fixed on his. "Humans, you are clever, resourceful. You survive where others fail. You think in ways that machines cannot. That is why you are suitable." Ethan swallowed hard. "Suitable? For what?" "For protection," she said simply. "You will keep me alive. You will survive with me." He looked at her, unsure whether to laugh or panic. "Okay, I need more details. Who are they? What do they want?" Lyra shook her head. "I cannot say more. Not now. If they know, they will come sooner." "You trust me. That is enough." Ethan ran a hand over his face. "Trust you? You show up unannounced, cook pancakes I can't even identify, and now tell me someone is hunting you. Sure sounds like trust to me." She did not smile, only inclined her head. "You will understand. Soon." The day passed with a tense silence. Ethan tried to continue repairs, but his mind kept drifting to Lyra's words. Who were these hunters, and how fast were they coming? By mid-afternoon, the first warning came. The outpost's external sensors detected a faint energy pulse approaching from the north. At first it seemed like a small weather anomaly, but Lyra's eyes glowed sharply and she moved with sudden urgency. "They are close," she said. "Prepare yourself." Ethan scrambled, shutting doors, sealing windows, and checking the emergency generator. He realized he had no idea how to defend against an intelligent attacker, especially one capable of hunting across interstellar distances. "Okay," he muttered. "Let's think. You know who they are, I don't. So what do we do?" Lyra moved to the control panel, her hands flying over buttons and switches. "We must hide. And if they find us, we must fight. You trust in your ingenuity. That is why you survive." Ethan nodded, even though he had no real plan. He watched as she adjusted sensors, reinforced doors, and created makeshift alarms. There was no fear in her movements, only precision and purpose. Hours passed. The energy pulses grew stronger, moving closer. Ethan could see the faint outlines of ships descending in the distance, metallic shapes glinting in the red light of the dying sun. Panic bubbled in his chest, but Lyra's calm presence grounded him. "They will attack soon," she said, her voice steady. "You must be ready." Ethan looked around the outpost, realizing that he had never truly considered how vulnerable it was. He had survived storms, dustquakes, and equipment failures, but armed attackers? This was entirely different. "All right," he muttered. "We need traps, barricades, something to slow them down." Lyra nodded. "We use environment." "We use tools. You improvised." Together they began fortifying the outpost. Ethan used spare metal panels to block doors and windows. He rigged the machinery to create warning alarms. Lyra adjusted sensors to detect any approach and instructed him on how to reinforce weak points. Though they argued constantly, Lyra scolding him for careless work, Ethan grumbling at her orders, they worked as a team. By nightfall, the outpost was a fortress. The faint hum of generators filled the air, mixed with the occasional clink of tools and the soft buzz of energy shields. Outside, shadows moved among the dunes, hunters closing in. Ethan sat on the floor, exhausted, as Lyra checked the perimeter one last time. "Do you understand now?" she asked. "You cannot leave. You survive here with me, or you die." Ethan swallowed hard. Yeah, I get it. Somehow I'm stuck with you, and now we're apparently in some interstellar action movie. Lyra gave him a faint smile, though her eyes remained serious. Not a movie, reality, you will learn. Humans are clever, but you must be ready. The first ship landed with a low thrum of engines, sand and dust swirling around it. Ethan and Lyra crouched behind the reinforced walls, peering through small observation windows. Figures in armored suits emerged, moving with deadly precision. They carried strange weapons that glowed with energy, scanning the outpost. Ethan's heart pounded. Okay, maybe I underestimated this. Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder. Stay calm. Think, you are human. That is your strength. Ethan nodded, trying to steady his breathing. He realized she was right. Humans survived because they could adapt, improvise, and fight with creativity, not just raw power. As the hunters approached the doors, Ethan sprang into action. Alarms blared, metal panels shifted, and hidden devices triggered sparks and lights. The intruders faltered, giving Lyra the chance to push through the first wave with incredible agility. She moved like a shadow, precise and deadly, while Ethan improvised traps that slowed and confused the attackers. Hours passed in a blur of noise and strategy. Ethan was exhausted, but he was alive, and so was Lyra. When the hunters finally retreated, it was clear that the outpost had held. The first test had been survived. Ethan collapsed against the wall, breathing heavily. Well, that was fun, in a terrifying, almost deadly way. Lyra knelt beside him, inspecting one of the energy pulses. You humans are strange, weak and fragile, yet clever. You adapt. That is why you survive. Ethan laughed weakly. Yeah, I guess. So, we survived. For now. Lyra looked toward the horizon, her glowing eyes dimming slightly as she spoke. Yes, but they will return. We must prepare. You must learn faster, Ethan groaned. Oh, fantastic. Survived the first attack and now it's homework. Just what I needed. But beneath the exhaustion and sarcasm, he felt a spark of something unfamiliar. Determination. Whatever Lyra's secrets were, whatever danger followed her, he would survive. He would adapt. And maybe, just maybe, he could protect her. 2. As night fully settled over Vera 4, Ethan lay on his cot, listening to the faint hum of the outpost and the quiet movements of Lyra in the next room. The universe had just become a lot bigger and far more dangerous. The next morning, the winds of Vera 4 were sharper, the dust thicker. Ethan sat at the control console, rubbing his temples. He had survived the first encounter, but exhaustion and worry weighed heavily on him. Lyra moved silently around the outpost, checking sensors and reassembling the improvised defenses they had built. They will return, she said without looking at him. Sooner than you expect, Ethan sighed. Yeah. I was hoping for a peaceful day to fix the solar panels. Lyra shook her head. Peace is rare. You must adapt. They hunt. They do not rest. By mid-afternoon, the faint glow of approaching ships appeared on the horizon. This time it wasn't just one or two. They came in a small squadron, sleek, dark, and menacing. Ethan felt his heart hammering, but he forced himself to stay calm. Lyra noticed and gave a small nod. You, human, think. You survive because you use your mind. That is your strength. Ethan straightened. All right, let's survive. The first wave of hunters landed near the northern ridge. Ethan had spent the previous night laying traps, but this was a real attack. Fast, well-coordinated, and deadly. Figures in black armor emerged, weapons glowing with lethal energy. They spread out, scanning, moving with silent precision. Ethan whispered to Lyra, I hope your people taught you some combat skills. Because I only know how to rig doors and shock generators. Lyra's eyes glowed brightly. I was trained in diplomacy, not war. But I will protect, and you must think, Ethan nodded. Right, think. Got it. He sprinted to the generator room, activating hidden sparks and wires he had connected to motion sensors. The hunters froze, momentarily confused as sparks shot from the floor and walls. Lyra leapt across the room, knocking a hunter off balance with precise force, then darted to the control panel, redirecting power to locked doors and automated turrets. Ethan realized that their combined strengths, human ingenuity, and alien skill made them a dangerous team. The hunters regrouped, pushing forward in coordinated waves. Ethan's traps slowed them, but he knew he couldn't rely on tricks forever. Lyra moved with grace and precision, incapacitating attackers with swift strikes and careful timing. You Humans are unpredictable, she said while tossing a small device that sent a blinding flash across the room. One of the hunters fell, dazed. Ethan ducked behind a metal crate, panting. Yeah, men, we're stubborn. That's our superpower. He quickly scanned the room, noticing a weak point in the outpost's perimeter, a secondary entrance that the hunters hadn't noticed. He grabbed a few spare panels and wires, rigging a trap with sparks and noise to funnel them into a narrow corridor. Lyra, he called, ready for the next move? She nodded. Always ready. When the hunters advanced through the corridor, Ethan's trap went off perfectly. Sparks flew, alarms blared, and several hunters stumbled, giving Lyra the opening to disable them with calculated strikes. The attackers regrouped, but the delay gave Ethan and Lyra critical time to fortify the rest of the outpost. Hours passed in a blur of energy blasts, improvised traps, and quick thinking. Ethan's human creativity kept the attackers off balance. Lyra's skill and speed turned potential defeats into opportunities. Together they formed a strange but effective defense, a blend of instinct, strategy, and improvisation. At one point, a hunter breached the main control room, charging at Ethan. Heart racing, he grabbed a nearby tool and swung it, hitting a panel that caused sparks to fly. The hunter paused, shocked by the unexpected attack, and Lyra struck from the side, incapacitating him in a precise motion. Ethan took a deep breath, realizing he was no longer just a passive survivor. He was an active participant. His mind raced, creating new traps on the fly, rerouting power and predicting the hunter's movements. By nightfall, the outpost was battered, but they had survived. The remaining hunters retreated to their ships, their glowing weapons cutting through the red haze as they disappeared beyond the horizon. Silence fell over Vera 4 once more. Ethan collapsed onto the floor, exhausted, his muscles aching from hours of action. Lyra knelt beside him, inspecting minor damages to the outpost. Humans are stronger than I believed, she said softly. Not physically, but I saw it in mind. You adapt. That is why you survive. Ethan laughed weakly. Yeah, we're good at making chaos look like strategy. Lyra tilted her head, considering him. Perhaps. But you learn quickly. That is impressive. Perhaps you are worthy of survival. Ethan chuckled despite himself. Well, thanks, I think. The two worked through the night, repairing damages, reinforcing doors, and checking sensors. Ethan realized that despite exhaustion, he felt a sense of pride. Human ingenuity and determination had held back advanced alien hunters. You saved us, Lyra said finally, looking at him. You think clearly, act fast. Most humans would have failed, Ethan shrugged. I didn't think I was saving anyone. Just trying not to die. Lyra's glowing eyes softened. That is human strength. You fight when the odds are impossible. That is why I am alive. That is why you survive. The night grew quiet, the red sun long gone. Ethan sat on his cot, staring at the floor. He had survived the attack, not by brute force, but by using his mind, his ingenuity, and by trusting Lyra when necessary. Lyra sat across from him, quietly watching the horizon. They will return, she said softly. And next time, they may bring more. You must prepare. You must learn. Ethan nodded slowly. Yeah, I get it. More danger, more chaos. But we can handle it, right? Lyra's eyes glowed faintly, reflecting both seriousness and something like respect. Yes, you can handle it. Humans are clever. You adapt. That is why you survive. Ethan laughed quietly. Well, I guess the universe has a funny way of making me a hero. Against my will. Lyra tilted her head, a hint of amusement in her expression. Perhaps. But you are proving worthy. That is what matters. The night stretched on, silent except for the soft hum of the outpost and the occasional click of machinery. Ethan realized that life with Lyra was dangerous, exhausting, and unpredictable, but it was also exhilarating because he had learned something essential. Humans were not just fragile creatures struggling to survive. They were clever, resourceful, and capable of extraordinary things when forced to act. And for the first time, Ethan felt proud, not just of surviving, but of proving that humanity could hold its own, even in a universe that seemed designed to challenge them at every turn. Lyra moved to the window, looking out into the vast red desert. They will return, she repeated, but we will be ready, together. Ethan smiled faintly. Yeah, together. Let's make sure next time they regret ever showing up. The outpost was battered, the night silent, but hope remained. Two unlikely allies, human and alien, had survived against overwhelming odds. And as the stars glimmered over the harsh landscape of Vera 4, Ethan knew one thing. This was only the beginning. The morning after the attack, the outpost was quiet, but tension hung in the air like the heavy dust of Vera 4. Ethan moved through the rooms, checking repairs, his muscles sore from the previous day's battle. Lyra was already at the control panel, scanning the horizon for any sign of the hunter's return. "They will not stay away long," she said without looking at him. "They are relentless, but we survived yesterday." "That is proof," Ethan rubbed his temples. "Yeah, I survived, barely, and I think my arms are permanently tired." Lyra gave a faint smile. "Strength is not just physical. You think, you improvise. That is your human gift. That is why we are alive." Ethan nodded, a small smile forming. Despite the danger, he felt a strange pride. He had survived not by raw power, but by ingenuity, creativity, and adaptability, traits that made humans unique in the vast universe. Hours passed. The horizon remained calm, though Ethan knew it was only a matter of time before the hunters returned. Lyra turned to him, her glowing eyes serious. "They will come in force. We cannot fight endlessly. We must find another solution." Ethan frowned. "Another solution? Like what? Jump into space, hope they miss us?" Lyra shook her head. "No, humans. You can reason, you can offer choices that may save us." Ethan considered her words. "You mean negotiate?" "Yes, or offer them something they do not expect. Intelligence, creativity." Surprise, he swallowed. This was risky. The hunters were ruthless. But he trusted Lyra's judgment. They had survived together so far. As night fell, the first ships of the hunters appeared on the horizon again, larger this time, bristling with weapons. Ethan and Lyra prepared, but instead of rushing to fight, they waited, hidden behind reinforced walls. The hunters approached, scanning the area, expecting traps and resistance. Ethan whispered, "So, we're going to try reasoning with people who tried to kill us yesterday?" Lyra nodded. "Humans survive not by strength alone, but by thought. You must help." Ethan gritted his teeth. "All right, let's do this." He activated a signal beacon, sending a carefully calculated pulse that mimicked a distress call, but embedded with a message in the hunter's language. It was risky, but he hoped it would make them pause. The ships hovered, the hunters scanning for the source. Then a figure stepped forward from one of the lead ships. Ethan and Lyra emerged cautiously, hands visible to show no aggression. The hunter leader, tall and armored, examined them silently. Lyra stepped forward, her posture regal, voice steady. "I am Lyra," she said. "Princess of the Arathian people. You seek me, but I offer a choice. Leave now or face the cost of further conflict." The hunter leader hesitated. "You are valuable. Your people will pay for your capture." Lyra's gaze did not waver. "You have already seen the strength of humans. This one," she gestured to Ethan, "he and I survive by intelligence, not just force. You underestimate us at your peril. We are clever, and we are prepared." Ethan took a deep breath, then added, "You've seen what we can do. We don't want more bloodshed, but if you come at us again, we'll make it harder than you expect. You have a choice. Walk away or fight and lose more than you planned." The hunter leader paused. For the first time, there was hesitation. Ethan realized that sometimes survival wasn't just about fighting. It was about presenting options the enemy didn't expect. Humans had a knack for turning intelligence into power. After tense moments, the hunters slowly retreated. Their ships lifted off, leaving a swirl of red dust behind. Ethan exhaled deeply. "Well, that worked better than I expected." Lyra turned to him, her expression softer. "You humans are remarkable. You see possibilities others do not. That is why we are alive. That is why you survive." Ethan shook his head, laughing quietly. "I can't believe it. I ordered a robot maid, got a royal alien princess, fought off interstellar hunters, and now apparently I'm a diplomat too." Lyra gave him a faint, amused smile. "Perhaps you are more than you believe." The next day, a rescue ship appeared on the horizon, clearly human. They had tracked Lyra's pod and were sent by sympathetic humans who knew of her plight. Lyra's expression changed, relief mixed with uncertainty. "They are allies," she said quietly. "They will take me home, but I do not know if I want to leave this human." Ethan frowned. "Wait, leave? You mean You might just go back to your people and disappear. Lyra's glowing eyes softened. I must choose. My people need me, but you showed me something unexpected. Humans here are not weak. You fight, you think, you survive. That it is admirable. That it is rare. Ethan felt a lump in his throat. He had grown used to Lyra's presence, her guidance, and even her constant, confident corrections. To lose her now was harder than he expected. Lyra turned toward the rescue ship, then back to him. I must return. My people will not wait, but your humanity has taught me. Hope, trust, strength, you are special. I will remember this always. Ethan stepped forward. Lyris, wait. You fought with me, survived with me. Maybe we can face the universe together. I mean, you don't have to go alone, not if you don't want to. Lyra's eyes glowed brightly for a moment. You offer your life, your choice. To stay with me? Ethan nodded. Yeah, we survived together. We can survive anything. I don't know the universe, but I know humans fight smarter, not just harder. That's our gift. A smile broke across Lyra's face. Then, perhaps, there is a future. With humans. With you. The rescue ship landed, its doors opening to welcome Lyra. She paused, looking back at Ethan, then extended a hand. I choose humanity, and you? Together we face what comes next. Ethan grasped her hand firmly, feeling a strange surge of hope and determination. All right. Let's survive the universe, then. One day, one challenge at a time. As the rescue ship lifted off, carrying Lyra and Ethan's makeshift outpost into orbit, the red sands of Vera 4 faded below. The universe stretched before them, vast, dangerous, and full of unknown challenges. But for the first time, Ethan didn't feel small or powerless. He had survived against impossible odds, fought alongside an alien princess, and discovered the true strength of humanity, not just in physical skill, but in courage, ingenuity, and the will to protect what matters. Lyra sat beside him, her eyes glowing softly. Humans, you are remarkable. You survive even when the odds are impossible. That is why I trust you. Ethan smiled, looking at the stars. And humans, we survive because we have each other. No matter how weird or unexpected the universe throws at us, the ship moved faster, leaving the barren planet behind, heading into the unknown. Together, human and alien, they faced the cosmos, not just surviving, but thriving. For Ethan, the life he had imagined, quiet, lonely, predictable, was gone. In its place was adventure, danger, companionship, and a deeper understanding of what made humans truly extraordinary.